What's up, guys? Tony Maritato here. So I had a couple related questions come in through Facebook Messenger. One was regarding the transition from an existing billing company to a new billing company. The other one was looking to hire a biller to come in and do their billing. So first, I wanted to touch on the transition. Now, this is one of those areas that I think is the hardest thing. We switched billers twice, and then we went in-house when we first started our practice. Just to give you a little context, if you don't know me, I'm a physical therapist, private practice owner. We started our practice back in 2001, 2002. We had no idea about billing. We were all cash-based at the time. Once we contracted with Medicare and started to contract with other payers, we hired a billing company. We thought that they knew what they were doing when it came to physical therapy billing, but they were not experienced in PT billing. And so it resulted in a lot of denials, a lot of delays, all sorts of mistakes. So then we switched to a second billing company. Same problem. Once we hit the third billing company, they did an amazing job, but they were never able to recover almost $60,000 in claims that either had gone past the timely filing limit or were just unrecognizable at that point. Like nobody knew where they were, what was going on. And remember, this was like before EMRs and lots of technology that we have today. But I can tell you that I remember when we were then switching from an amazing in-house biller, an amazing outsource biller, bringing it in-house, that was a challenge. Because what we had to figure out was if they were receiving a percentage of revenue for claims that they submitted, where are we going to make the break? How are we going to say, okay, on Friday, this claim and all previous claims are yours, but on Monday, this claim and all future claims are mine? How are we going to switch the EDI enrollment so that we can start submitting our own claims to Medicare and other third-party payers when they still need access to be able to download EOBs and post payments electronically for claims that they were working on? It was a really, really challenging transition. Now, what we did, which a lot of people don't have this opportunity, we had 2 locations that were up and running that the other billing company was handling. We opened a third location, and I started from scratch doing my own billing for the third location. So by the time that I was up and running, probably 6 months into doing my own billing for the third location, I had optimized my systems. I knew exactly what was going on. And I was actually able to kind of hold on to claims that wouldn't exceed the timely filing limit while the contract biller, the outsource biller, was able to finalize 30, 60, 90 days worth of AR before we made a clean break. And I said, okay, now I'm switching over all of the EDI enrollments. I'm switching everything else over. You've had 90 days to finish collecting. Now we're going to do it ourselves. But we had enough bankroll. We had enough collections from the other clinic. We could do that at that time. A lot of other private practices cannot do this. So this is one of those situations where I would tell you, don't stick with a failing billing company, but figure out your plan to split before you actually are in that situation. Understand, are you just going to make a clean break? Are you going to buy your AR and accounts receivable from them since you had agreed to pay them the percentage? They would have collected that percentage. They were willing to continue to do the work. Is there a genuine breach of contract? Like, just because somebody's making more mistakes than you like doesn't mean that they necessarily need to or that they necessarily would qualify as a breach of contract and you can just outright fire them and not pay them the money that's due to them. I know in a lot of cases, I find it's easier to just negotiate. If they were going to get 5%, you negotiate a 3% payout. You take all the accounts receivable in-house and you just pick up from there. But it is a sticky situation. Now, going to the other question that came in, how do I find a billing company I can outsource my billing and collections to? This particular individual was doing primarily Medicare and Medicaid, no other plans, no non-federal plans or Medicare Advantage plans. And my question was, do you really think that you should be outsourcing? Is there any chance you can find somebody in your local network, in your family, in your circle of friends who's looking for part-time work, who could maybe do something like this? Because the reality is Medicare especially. Medicare is absolutely like, it should be less than 0.1% of error rate in a typical calendar year for Medicare claims. You might forget an occasional 59 modifier. The NCCI edits have become so easy nowadays. There's hardly ever a problem with edits. Maybe you forget a KX modifier and you just need to reopen the claim and add it back on. Like, there's a couple logistics that do come into play. But once you create a system, once you make a mistake, you make the first mistake, you resolve that first mistake, you create a system to avoid that mistake ever happening again, you should never have a problem. Now that, if I was doing billing for just Medicare, potentially Medicaid, depending on your state and depending on if you're just doing state-run Medicaid or Medicaid, managed Medicaid plans, that does get a little bit more tricky. But I would tell you that, most billing companies are not going to accept a small sole owner operator. They're just too much work for too little pay. If you're doing $100,000 a year in revenue, a billing company is going to make $7,000. There is no chance that billing company can afford to make $7,000 gross off of your account. And even if you went to $200,000, they're going to make $14,000. If you go to $300,000 for a sole single owner operator, $300,000 is a pretty high number. It's doable, totally doable, but it's a high number. And the billing company is still only going to generate $21,000 a year on your account. And if you're having enough problems with your account, the company is going to have a bunch of headaches and they're not going to want to deal with you. So it really is one of those situations that for you to find a billing company at that level, it's probably going to be someone who's desperate, and they're probably not going to do that great of a job, because they are going to be losing money accepting your account. I would encourage you to strongly consider figuring out a way to bring the billing in-house, to do it yourself, especially if it's just Medicare and the occasional Medicaid referral. I think it's in your best interest. But guys, these are the kind of questions I love to get because it gives me a chance to see what you guys are thinking about, what you guys are struggling with. If you have questions like this, absolutely post it in the YouTube comments below, and I'll catch you on the next video.